Earlier this year, deputies had to use a reversal overdose drug on a 21-month-old child after it swallowed cocaine. And now a Venice couple is facing charges. The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office says Caitlin Van Dorn and Blake Pavey are facing felony counts of child neglect. So back in January, deputies had to rush out to this home because the toddler wasn't breathing and lost consciousness. He was given the reverse overdose meds, which saved him. He was taken immediately to DCF and has not been back to that home since. A spokesperson for the sheriff's office says that Van Dorn told investigators the child may have picked up a needle cap on a neighborhood walk and actually had a bucket to pick up rocks. But investigators think that whole story may have been a lie.
She didn't indicate what it may have been, but EMS personnel used their best judgment and decided to administer 3 doses of naloxone, which is the opioid reversal drug. Fortunately, that brought the child immediately back. He regained full consciousness, was alive and awake and very coherent. The child was transported to the hospital to do some further testing, so the child was okay. Detectives started talking to the woman in the home to try to glean some more information about what happened. According to the defendant, this is Caitlin Van Dorn. She said that she was on a neighborhood walk with the child, which was customary, and the child may have picked up the cap to a needle and placed it in his mouth. The woman then said that she swatted the item out of the child's mouth, and they returned home, but on their way home, the child became kind of limp and soon became unconscious. According to Van Dorn, she ran into the house and threw down a bucket that the child was carrying and attempted first aid on the child until paramedics arrived. So Van Dorn referred to this teal bucket that the child was carrying in an effort to collect rocks on the walk. So when deputies were talking to Van Dorn, they said, you know, where's the teal bucket? She said, well, it must still be out in the neighborhood. So deputies did a neighborhood canvass with Van Dorn to find the needle cap and to find the bucket. Neither of those things were recovered. When deputies went back to the home, Van Dorn kind of changed her story a few times and ended up finding the bucket in a closed bedroom. When she presented the bucket to deputies, it had a spoon in it and a tissue consistent with the ingestion of narcotics. When we tested that spoon, it yielded positive results for both fentanyl and cocaine. Through the course of about 4 months, we had to wait for toxicity results to come back from Sarasota Memorial Hospital. Once we got those results, we learned that the child did in fact overdose on cocaine. Again, the child is 21 months old. To say this is appalling is an understatement. We are very glad that these 2 people are behind bars facing felony charges today, and more than anything, we are grateful that this child survived what could have been a very different outcome.
Why was Dad arrested along with the mom?
Yeah, so the other defendant who was in the home was also arrested. He kind of corroborated Caitlin Van Dorn's story initially, but said that he was sleeping, so he wasn't along for the walk. But he also said that, you know, Caitlin Van Dorn went into the home, threw the bucket on the floor, and started rendering first aid. He corroborated that story. Both of those individuals do live in that home, and that child did as well.
And what's the status of the child today? Where is he living, and what medically is he okay?
Yeah, so medically the child is okay, thank God. But the child was taken immediately by DCF. So that's also one of the more positive things I can share with you. The child was taken immediately and has not been in the custody of these 2 people since January.
What kind of people do this to a kid?
As a mother, myself, there are people in this world that try very hard to have families and to care for children. So to be charged with the responsibility of taking care of a child and then doing something like this, there aren't words for it.
So now, is there any more evidence that there were more drugs present in the house? I mean, obviously, deputies did a lot of searching around the neighborhood, and I'm sure they did a good sweep of the house as well. Was there any more evidence of drug use by these two individuals?
There was. During a search of the home, they did identify a crack pipe and a syringe on the couch inside the house as well, which also is indicative of why that other defendant was charged. There is, and thank you for mentioning that. So in addition to our neighborhood canvas, detectives also pulled video from nearby residences to see, the timing of that walk and if the child picked anything up. We were unable to recover any sign of a walk even taking place. So based on our investigation, we believe strongly that the child ingested those narcotics inside the home.
Do we have any clue how that could have happened? Or could have been obviously accidental? Or, they didn't pick the kid.
I can't say for sure. I wish I had the answer to that. I'm not sure. The only people that were there are these two defendants and that child who unfortunately can't articulate to us exactly how it happened.
This is obviously it's been 6 months. For people watching this who are like, how did it take 6 months to arrest these people? What would we do?
Yeah, it's certainly frustrating. So one of the things that we have to do as a law enforcement agency, because of medical information, we have to get subpoenas for medical information. So the toxicity reports, I think by default take a little while to come back. That's not uncommon, but to get access to those does take some time. So we finally got access to that in May, early May, and then we got the arrest warrant signed and we executed them a few days ago. So they were arrested on Saturday. The male defendant here has already been released, but the female, Caitlin Van Dorn, is still in custody.
How lucky is this child, this baby, to walk away with this alive and still be here today?
Again, it's really hard to put into words. My heart breaks for that child. And our detectives see things like this all the time, but it's particularly difficult when it involves a child, an innocent, helpless child who should not be in the environment that he has been forced to be in. So thank goodness he is in the care of someone else at this time.
The baby was 21 months old when this happened, right?
Yeah, so the baby now is more than 2 years old.
And this is something too where obviously when EMS first got there, they said the baby ingested something, but it was EMS used their best judgment, so the mother never actually said that there was possible drugs ingested, correct?
Yeah, my understanding is initially the female defendant said he may have put something in his mouth. And then later she kind of said, well, it may have been narcotics. And then later she handed over the bucket that had a spoon in it that had cocaine and fentanyl on it. So kudos to EMS and fire personnel for kind of thinking on their feet. And given kind of his behavior and his level of unconsciousness, they did what was best and they deployed that naloxone. And again, thank God they did.
Has there been any history at the house in terms of calls out there before in the past, or any history with parents of these in the past? Right? Obviously, it was really a little less than 2 years old, so not very long.
Yeah. I do know that Caitlin Van Dorn has prior arrests. I'm unsure on Blake Pavey, but I can certainly look into it for you. I'm just not sure.
I know that
Good.
Pavey's already out on bond. Is there any opportunity for Van Dorn to be out until they're in court, or is she going to be held to that?
So she has a $15,000 bond for the child neglect charge, but she's also being held on a probation violation charge, which carries zero bond. So until she's seen by the judge and the judge determines what's going to happen with that, she'll remain in custody.